the coronavirus situation, I mean, we spoke about that the other night, where you're thinking, well, what is the point of all this stuff? Because there's so much panic, and there's so much fear, and there's so much negativity, and there's so much, it seems to be building in a major way, where people are bulk buying and panic buying, and things are happening on a day-to-day basis, and the fear's coming in, and like we spoke about, what is the point of all this work and self-love and self-awareness and self-value? But can you imagine, my question is, like, can you imagine being in all this without the work? If you were to think about being in the middle of all this drama, and it's serious, it's not that it's not minimizing it or making it or making it not a big deal, or just ignoring it and just thinking, well, it's nothing, it'll pass, and that's not what it is. It seems to be a very serious, and it is a very serious situation that's occurring worldwide. But can you imagine if you are caught in that drama? I was listening to someone on the news saying, I'm 45 years old and I've had pneumonia. I want to hole myself up on my farm for a year and not let my kids go to school, and my wife's this, and I'm petrified in case I catch something, and the postman's going to bring it to us, and this is the kind of mindset, and that panic and that stress and that anxiety is going to weaken the immune system. It's going to weaken your immune system right off the bat. And so it's like managing to work with yourself through self-awareness, through self-care, through self-value, through being able to listen to where you are and listen to what you're needing, and what's going on for you, and paying attention to that without adding a dramatic story to it, and being present with yourself in the moment, then that is going to help you far more than going into panic mode about, I got to do this, I got to do that, and this is going to happen, and that's going to happen, and jumping so far ahead into the future that you create a whole big dramatic story of anxiety that will deplete your immune system in the midst of all this, whatever this virus is, and whatever it's doing, and however it's going to manifest, and however it's going to attack or mutate, or whatever it's going to do. Nobody really seems to have an idea, but all you can do is look after yourself and not get caught. And I mean, I'm high risk. I mean, I'm 64. I'm type 1 diabetic. I have celiac disease, and I've had pneumonia. Not that many years ago, I had 3 months in a pneumonia. So for me to actually stay centered, and I'm in a high risk capacity of if I catch the virus, but the only thing you can do is say, here's the facts, here's what I know, here's what I'm doing, and I'm not going to add to my potential for catching a virus by doing stupid things, or by not looking after myself, or let my mind and my thoughts run away with me, because that is going to deplete and weaken my immune system far faster than anything else that I do. And I'm going to eat proper food, I'm going to nourish myself, and I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to listen even more vigilantly than I already do. And I'm taking care so that if something doesn't feel right, I'm going to trust that. I'm going to listen to that. And if something feels off, I'm going to trust that, and I'm going to listen to that. So you're really, and it was just when we talked on Saturday, I was thinking, well, yeah, you wonder what it's all about. You wonder what self-care and self-love when the world's going is in such a fragmented way. But my question after was, I was like, what would we do if we weren't taking care, if we weren't working on ourselves, if we weren't focusing on listening and what we can do to help ourselves, if we got caught in the drama, or we got caught in the story, or we got attached to something and we were adding so much pressure and so much stress to ourselves that our ability to fight off anything was even less than it actually is. And so that's really, for me, what it's all about, because it is about your health, of course, your physical health, but it's also about your mental, emotional, spiritual health. And I think that's really what the point of all of the work that anybody does. And it isn't about meditating your way out of it and just going, oh, it's not going to affect me because it's not in my reality. The fact is, this is reality that we're living in, and there are things happening in reality. And so we can't rise above the reality and say it's not going to affect us. It's being aware of the reality and not allowing ourselves to be taken by it and affected by it. And that's what self-awareness is really. That's really the point of it all, and that's really what I see is the thing that we can do about it, because it is concerning. There is definitely something that is something to be concerned about. However, the listening is going to help more than anything. That's my sense about it. I think the things that you can do are, for your immune system, are make sure that you're resting, make sure that you're not getting I think you've got to stay aware. So I don't think shutting the news off is the answer, but I think fixating on the news is not the answer either. I think you've got to be aware of the world and what's going on, but see it for what it is and actually stay focused. I think resting, eating proper food is always the thing, making sure you're drinking lots of water, making sure that you're taking proper nutrition and you are staying away from toxic people, toxic situations, toxic things, and being present with yourself and being present with others, and surrounding yourself, not necessarily physically surrounding yourself, but surrounding yourself and going and being around people and aware consciousness where fear is not being added and fear is not being exacerbated and fear is not being dramatized. And it's you're actually keeping on an even keel as much as you possibly can. I don't think there's anything else that you can do, but I don't think people buying 5,000 toilet rolls and going out and panicking because they can't get antibacterial soap and all this kind of stuff is helping. I think if you were that person, I cannot imagine being that person that's frantically running to the grocery store going, how can I get this? What can I get? Gimme. And it's like it becomes a self-serving, selfish way to be, and it's adding to the panic. And it just means, hang on a second, what else can I do? And I think that's the reactivity that being self-aware has reduced. The self-awareness, you'll know that from the work that you're doing. Is like you disentangle from the emotional drama, and you are able to then step back from it, maybe visualize it, maybe understand it, interpret it in a different way, see it from a perspective of being more neutral and objective than being caught up in it and getting attached to it and therefore pulled into and feeding it. Because we want to not feed that negativity. We don't want to feed the drama, but we also have to be real and realistic. And I think often that kind of gets misunderstood. So if you're not feeding the drama, then you got to say, well, it doesn't exist. Yes, it does exist. That is like saying, well, the universe is going to take care of me and I'm not doing anything. That is not how it works either. That's the literalness of it. And it's like, be real, but and be aware and be connected and listen, and don't feed the drama. At the moment, the drama is the dark stuff.
Yeah.
What we want is, there has to be some ability to stay centered and have your light and look after it. But you could easily get caught up in that. It's just everywhere. It's all consuming. And I think if we're adding into that, we're not helping it. And we're not helping ourselves either. And that's really where I was coming from with it all. I just think the self-awareness work is helpful. It does mean you have to consider what you're going to do, or how you're going to do it, or are your plans going to have to change, or is it you're not going to be blasé about things and unrealistic. But I think you just have to be aware, but not being aware and being afraid are two different things. Being aware is I'm listening, and I've got awareness of a heightened a heightened state of awareness is not being in a heightened state of paranoia, which I remember somebody saying that to me. I'm in a heightened state of awareness, but I am actually paranoid. But that paranoia is coming from the fear energy, and the awareness is coming from the connected, safe energy. And I think being disconnected in something like this going on in the world today must be horrific, because it does cause major panic. It's what people are panicking. People are doing stupid things, not because they're stupid, but because they're panicking and they're afraid. And it just like you can't hear the voice of reason from yourself, never mind anybody else, when you're in panic. And so it's what can we do to kind of pull it back? And it was just that conversation that we had on Saturday night that made me start thinking about that, because I had a moment where I thought, what is the point of all the work that we do? What is the point of the awareness and the awareness and being conscious and working on yourself and healing your old fragmentation and becoming less dramatic and more responsive? What's the point of it all when this is what's coming at us? But there is a point.
Yeah, absolutely. This is just like
being really honest with yourself as well, and knowing that if you're freaking out internally and you're trying not to freak out, but you actually are, you're better being honest that I'm freaking out here. But then rather than trying not to, because I'm trying to contain myself freaking out, but not to act it out, but to be honest with how you're feeling. And if you're feeling nervous, be nervous, but then either self-soothe or speak to someone who's coming from a perspective that isn't going to antagonize your anxiety or make your anxiety worse or dramatize the situation. And I think it is hard, because sometimes you think, what is next? What's coming next? It's just like it never seems to be stopping, and it's very understandable, because there's something doesn't add up with everything, and nobody really knows, and that's the thing that makes everything worse, because you don't know. But how often do we really know anything?
Well, that's the whole point. That's another thing. Exactly.
I think nobody really knows, or maybe they do know, and we're not privy to that information. But I think even when you look at it, the self-help work, the work that you do on yourself, helps you be present, and it helps you be okay with not knowing. When you're a person that hasn't done any inner work, you always need to know what's going to happen next, and how it's going to happen, and when it's going to happen, and what's going to happen, and all of that. Where when you're working with yourself in a way of being present, you're more comfortable with not knowing what's next, and so you can handle it, so you don't freak out when you don't know what's next. And so that in itself is another plus point of having that self-awareness of not having this low-level anxiety because you don't know what's going to happen next, or how the next week's going to go, or how the next months are going to go, or how the next year's going to go, or what's going to happen in 3 years' time, or what's going to happen down the line. You don't need to know that. But if you think about not having the work that you've done in the understanding way back when, how often did you just need to know what was going to happen next before you even the next day, or the next hour, or if you had a conversation, how was it going to go, or what were the it's like that need to know, and be jumping ahead and being afraid to do something unless you knew how it was going to pan out, instead of just taking that step and and working it out as you go. But the self-awareness creates that safety, and I think that's the thing that we need more than anything in the situation that we're in, is that safety, because the inner safety is what the work does that we do. It doesn't mean that you think, oh, it's fine, it'll all be fine. Hopefully it will be.
Sean and the sisters, she says, oh, well, it'll just be like flu or something like that, with blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, she might have her own inner thoughts, but
and it could be, and some people, it will be just like the flu, but it doesn't alter the fact that even today there's 377 people died in Italy, and there's people dying all over the world with it. And people die with the flu, but at the end of the day, it's still a very serious thing for whatever reason. And schools aren't closed for no reason. Big sporting events aren't put off for no reason. Things aren't cancelled for no reason. People are not locked down for no reason. And so there's something that is very important. So hopefully, yes, it will be okay, but you can be okay within it yourself. You can be in the chaos, but not become part of the chaos. And you can only do that with self-awareness, and the work that we're doing and how we've been working is helping that. Because that's my question. The question you asked is like, I don't know what the point of the work is. What is, and I had to say, well, I have no idea. When you think about it, well, with all this stuff going on, it just makes you wonder, what the heck is the point of doing all this self-development, personal development? It's like, well, we may as well, we're just going to be wiped out anyway. And then you just think, well, that's a bit crazy. It's like, no, because we're in this. So let's be calm within it. Let's be centered when we're in it. Let's be present when we're in it. Let's be aware when we're in it, because that's the thing that's going to keep us far safer than anything else. And it's not even about, oh, this is what you got to do. This is what you're going to do. It's just like, no. If I listen to myself, and this isn't any different from any other event in your life. Is like, you wouldn't go into any event when you've started to become self-aware without listening. You wouldn't even go and have a conversation with somebody if you weren't listening to how you were feeling while you're having the conversation. Doesn't matter who it is, but you pay attention to yourself, not from a selfish, self-absorbed, like, I'm buying the £200 worth of toilet roll and I don't care whether anybody else has any or not. That's not the same type of thing. It's that self-awareness. And it's just like, I'm going to stay calm, and as calm as I possibly can, and as present as I possibly can. And that is going to help me and everybody else as long as I possibly can. and hopefully, everything will be okay, and this will settle down, and hopefully things will just go away, or they'll get the vaccine or whatever they're going to do, and things are going to be okay, and that's all we can hope for. But at the end of the day, while we're going through it in panic is one thing, or going through it in calmly and with awareness is a totally different experience. So your experience is entirely up to you how you go through it.
Yeah.
But not everybody has that choice, because if you haven't done any work, the automatic thing is, oh my God, this is panic or denial. And denial is not as unhealthy as anything else.
Yeah.